We have Ogdoadic reptiles and friends for you today. The Dark World special back at it again, and quite another interesting chunk of decks. Make sure you guys smash the crap out of that subscribe button so you guys don't miss out on more Oz content. Now, this is actually really cool to see. This actually top 8 of the Providence Regional over, what was it, the last weekend or so, and we finally got to see some love to Ogdoadics. And, you know, we always do talk about that this deck is essentially kind of like the high roll magnet. If it high rolls and it does its thing, you're probably going to get decimated by it. And, you know, I'm not all that surprised to see that, you know, we were eventually able to see this kind of come to light here. So basically, Black Mamba is such a good card too. So basically using this little Evil's Lore package here, this little mini package actually kind of allows you to extend on into some of your better extra deck options that we've seen down here. Also putting free monsters on the field. Hello Singularity. We've all kind of seen how this little card actually works out here for this deck. To be honest with you, I find this to be kind of interesting, at least in terms of, you know, how you're going to attempt to develop this deck and what you want to do. I mean, Lars is such an insane card for this deck to be able to functionally abuse, and just, you know, the multiple packages and consistency that you're able to kind of access with this deck, I'm happy to see. The bigger things outside of that, I mean, utility is all about the game, and you know, this deck does get its Rika support next set, so I do honestly kind of think that the Ogdoadic Rika deck might be one of the more interesting lines that you consider exploring here in the future and going, hey, you know, we can use the reptile packages to be able to filter, generate some of this better advantage, and, you know, set up some pretty strong inboards so you can kind of do your thing. Outside of that, I mean, you're still doing standard reptile things here. You know, if this build, or at least if this doesn't, you know, get you to where you need to be, or, you know, Daybreak here not getting the chance to resolve, you're gonna have some bad times. Alright, what else we got back here? We have a first place Dark World special for you here. Now, the first thing catches my attention here is we're actually playing Kawaki Marrow Guardian. Now, are we using this? We have to be using this as a normal summon monster to be able to stop your opponent from using those pesky hand traps against us. Like that's got to be the first thing that catches my attention here when you're thinking about ideas and going, huh, you know, we can actually do this. Yes, technically you can actually. This is not really something that comes to my mind that I would really want to be considering playing out here. But you know what? It opens up, you know, some genuine ideas and things for you to kind of mess around with. So that's good. All right, cards that can stop ashes and other hand traps. And I mean, it's not like Dark World really gives two craps about its core normal summon. You know, you can 100% play around without your normal. It just helps that, you know, it would be nice to be able to, you know, be able to extend on into it. And of course, you know, typically if this card, as long as you're not playing against tier and tier high rolled you, card destruction should be a free resource to generate at least some sort of advantage. Also, I mean, Fenrir on into a Kawaki Marrow Guardian feels like such a good position to be opening up with down here. Also, there is an extra X slot down here. You can kind of adjust and play with whatever you need to. I don't really, there's nothing that's going to stop you from trying to abuse it. And of course, you do have the one Dark Corridor. You are playing 2 Drag Down, and you are playing 2 Gates. I feel like ratios for this build, they're very interesting. Dark Corridor, I mean, you can maximize up to a 2 of. We've seen 3 in some builds, but I feel like you're just asking for a consistency's sake nightmare at that point. I love 2 opening up 3 unplayable cards that I'm just staring at going, wow, this is really, really cool. Cool stuff. We have a showcase for Ice Jade. This feels like the old Mermail toolbox, but you know, obviously you supplement all of the Mermail cards for Ice Jade cards. Ice Jade, Rana Grind, going to be your best early extender here, being able to set up. And your goal here, to probably drop Mulu on the field, and then have Mullen Glacia shave 2 cards off from your opponent's hand. Typically having your opponent not be able to use, you know, multiple card hands we've definitely learned in the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! That, you know, the less resources your opponent tends to have going into their turn, the better off you'll be. Now, do keep in mind, I mean, you are more towards focused being an Ice Jade deck. Manifestation here, if you control a water monster, your opponent has a monster in the field, you can take an Ice Jade monster from your deck and either send it to the graveyard or beam it on out. And if it face up Ice Jade, you control these field by an opponent's card, except being destroyed. You can banish this card from your graveyard, target a card your opponent controls, and banish it. So this is actually pretty decent. This gives you some kind of going second options. We've definitely noticed more options to be able to beam out cards, especially if your opponent's attempting to try to set up some sort of board here. This build definitely needs as many going second options as it actually can. I mean, that's why you have things like the Super Poly in here for the board breakers, the Talons to take control of those opponent's cards. It's pretty straightforward stuff here, honestly. And hello, the Ice Jade Cradle. You know, I kind of like this. I didn't when I sat down and I first saw this. Initially, I was like, you know, okay, so we're basically Ice Jade ran a grind, you know, set up, you know, standard big level 10, and then, you know, we continue to extend through, you know, hope we see a Deep Sea Diva or something along the way. So, you know, we can obviously access the Neptibus to get the further cycle going. So, you know, you can set up into the big guy here. Obviously, you know, Dragoons being the universal searcher for the deck is something big. So it's kind of cool to see. Now, Naturia Runic. First of all, I really, you take a moment to think for a second. You're like, well, you know, do people really still play this? Even though, you know, the Sacred Tree is limited to 1. Yes, it's not like it's a super popular variation of the deck, but it does definitely showcase that, you know, people will still try this. I mean, honestly, Blessing and the Tree were like they're the two things that tend to make the deck go around. I mean, this is the free Monster Reborn. This was the thing that gave you, you know, the free universal search from the deck that you wanted to be able to loop. And depending on how, you know, your localized environment is, you know, it just depends on how good Barkion and Beast will tend to be hand in hand with each other. We've definitely noticed that Beast can be a very strong card, but once again, I bring up that localized meta factor. You know, if you have a meta that's just heavy monsters, you know, crazy things like that, of course you're not going to get as much value off of Beast. Like, that's just how it works. But on the flip side of the equation, though, if you have a locals that knows you're playing Runic and they're boarding in things like those Cosmics, Feather Dusters, well then, you know, Mr. Naturia Beast here is going to be a very solid card for you to be able to do your thing. Also, I mean, you're getting access to the Synchro utility options, which now, you know, filters into some mills, some negations. You're putting that, you know, extra value we were kind of seeing with the Deep Sea Diva and the old former builds back in the day that use these cards as protection things instead of, you know, attempting to mill out your opponent. You know, you want these huge cards to stick around for a turn or two. So then, you know, you can pressure your opponent after the devastating, oh, my battle phase got yeeted effect comes to a close. So outside of that, I am not surprised to see that people are still trying this deck as a utility option. It is very, very strong, still in my opinion. So good stuff to see this. And we have Cyber Dragons for you today back here. Carnot has definitely been an interesting discussion that we've seen players kind of visiting right now. Carnot, I mean, as long as your opponent activated a monster effect, then Carnot can beam itself on out. Carnot gets very big, but I mean, the biggest things you care about is it's a little free machine extender that gets big. And I don't think a lot of people tend to realize, like, yeah, it's a one-of, sure, but, like, Carnot does generate some pretty crazy value. Also, you know, Clockwork Knight being one of the solid bases of this deck to allow, you know, the Cyber Dragon machine to contact fuse an entire board. Clockwork Knight definitely gave Cyber Dragons that huge going second push that they definitely needed to bring themselves back into the meta, at least a semi-stepping stone point. I will say that, you know, if you're looking at this and you're like, you know, do I really want to try Cyber Dragons? Honestly, give it a shot. I mean, you just got to understand, like, you're going to need Clockwork Knights. The Horus package here generates some huge board presence for you. Alright, don't underestimate what a free 2400 and a free 3000 can do for you. Alright, I mean also, you know, possibly a free Chaos Angel step in, depending on how things are going. I mean, who doesn't love Core being able to be a tuner monster, to be able to tune with this, to make the Chaos Angel? A little free value there, but okay, I like the synergy that's behind this. It actually seems pretty free to me. So what do you guys think? Please, leave a comment down below. Tell me what you guys think, and I'll see your beautiful faces back here in a day, guys. Peace. Patrons, thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. Check out these other videos.